What's going on, guys? Plastic Beach X3 back here with another One Piece commentary video, and this time we're going to be looking at the top 4 match from the TAC Games Regional over in Auckland, New Zealand. It's going to be Neiss on the left piloting the Boa strategy with Keden on the right piloting the Black-Yellow Luffy strategy. We're going to take a look into both deck lists before we get into the match here. Just a reminder, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see some more commentary videos, as well as I mainly just post ranked game videos, so if you're interested in that, go take a look. I'm looking to play a different deck here soon. As soon as I'm done recording this, I might record some games with a new deck I've been gooing up in my mind. But either way, let's get into the deck lists for both of these players. This is top 4, of course, so both players are extremely talented, and now they have to play out to see who gets to go to the finals. So pretty high stakes. Let's see what what Neiss is on here. He's playing the Boa deck. Just straight up, of course, Boa is an interesting choice for a regional of this size. We're talking about a meta. So just for context, this is the first OP08 regional in Western history, I guess. So we're not. And it's the first OP08 regional that we've seen that doesn't have RP law in it. So a lot of players are playing a bunch of different strategies with the RP law ban and the Lucci stage ban in mind. So Boa obviously is just something that a lot of people will look towards for this format. It just seems like it has a really strong matchup, the blue deck in general. If we're thinking about the top 4 decks, in my mind, in OP08, this is just my opinion, I'm thinking of Lucci, Black-Yellow Luffy, Bonnie, Nami. That's what I think is the top 4 strategies. I know like Zoro, Kagara, we could call those tier 1 strategies or whatever, but in my mind, those are the 4 tops. And if we're looking at what Boa's matchup spread amongst those 4 top decks are, Lucci, auto lose. Okay, I mean, it's a tough matchup. Oh, and I would actually say top 5 decks right now. I think the 3D2Y Luffy is another top 5 deck. So let's just talk about the top 5 matchups. 3D2Y, Lucci, Boa is not that good. Obviously, Boa will struggle less into the 3D2Y Luffy just because it's inherently the whole idea of the 3D2Y Luffy black deck is to play a black deck that counters Lucci and black yellow. Because traditionally Lucci has an awful matchup into the Black-Yellow Luffy. So Black Luffy lets Black play a good deck against the Black-Yellow Luffy. It's still not a good matchup, but they can at least play more 9Ks than they would otherwise. And they can play a lot of different tech cards that Lucci just can't play. Obviously, Lucci has a lot more versatility in against Bonnie and the rogue strategies. It just decimates those, but it just definitely loses into Black-Yellow Luffy. So the Black Luffy is there to remove that awful matchup and make it more of a 50-50 matchup. So in trading for that 50-50 matchup into Black-Yellow, the black deck struggles against a lot of the rogue decks. It doesn't. I shouldn't say struggle against a lot of the rogue decks. It definitely just beats them, but it beats them less, and it's probably just a more winnable matchup for the rogue strategies than going into straight up Lucci. Obviously, Boa just probably concedes to Lucci. You can beat them, of course, like any deck can beat any deck, but it is what it is. And then the Black Luffy, it's a tough matchup. It's hard to win. And then we'll go into the Bonnie matchup. Obviously, traditionally, Boa is favored into Bonnie because of the Red Rock and the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. Nowadays, they can afford to play more Red Rock without RP Law in the meta. So it just becomes an even worse matchup because as soon as you play Zoro, as soon as you play Kid, as soon as you play Tin Drop Dofi, it's just getting bottom decked. And obviously, putting's a crazy card into Bonnie. Etc., etc. And then we'll go into the Black-Yellow Luffy matchup for Boa is pretty traditionally favored, of course. Gravity Blade Raging Tiger is one of the best cards against that deck. It just totally decimates it, and Pudding is bonkers. Plus, you have big bodies like Boa, Kaido. Yeah, so I mean, it's a good matchup. And then going into the Nami matchup's also pretty good. Of course, you have the bottom deck capabilities of the Boa strategy in general of playing Boa, bottom Kaya, 7 Raging Tiger, the blockers, Pudding, bonkers into Nami, and then of course the Tech Gion. I listened to Neiss's deck profile. He said this was solely for the Nami matchup, of course. He said he has a personal grudge against Nami, that he wanted to play this card. Something for OP08 exclusive, we'll see that the Jozu is added into the deck, cutting one of the Boas. This card lets you bounce any of your cards, so you can not only bounce like a Kaya or a Sengoku or something, but you can also bounce a Moria and reuse it, or a Jinbei and reuse it, and that kind of thing, or like bounce your 2K back to hand or something, or even bounce your Pudding back to hand to reuse it later. So it adds a lot of versatility while also getting you the card draw that it traditionally does. It's just that you have to activate Jozu with 4 cards in hand, not 5, whereas Boa, you can activate her with 5 to get the draw. But, you know, it's a marginal difference. And then, of course, the Perfume Femur. I'm not exactly sure what matchup this is for, but, you know, it is a card that exists. So we're going to go into Keden's top 4 New Zealand Black Yellow Luffy deck. It's a very interesting deck, given the trend in America right now is to play all the Kuzan cards. 4 of the 4-drop Kuzan and 1 to 2 of the 10-drop Kuzan. Whereas Keden here, he disbanded that strategy. I watched his deck profile to try and get an insight on why he was playing these tech cards. And he said that he was willing to just concede the Bonnie matchup in favor of playing these cards, which are better into black and black-yellow, which I think is a very, and Nami, which I think is a very strong argument. Sometimes when you just make a big tournament run like this, you just have to build a deck that concedes to one deck in the game, and then you just beat all the other decks, and then you just hope not to play that one deck in the game. Ironically enough, he did play a Bonnie early rounds and beat them just because he was able to rush them down faster before they could play 9-drop Zoro. Pretty nasty. I mean, he's still on the Ice Age to address the 9-drop Zoro, so it's not like it's a total concede either. He said he played less of the Pop Luffy just simply because RP Law wasn't a thing anymore. And then when we talk about the Perona, he said Perona not only being a 2K, but also a 2K revivable off of Rebecca, but also a 2K that you can summon on 4, just like you would with Kuzan, but to also against Nami, you can get a card out of their hand, and then just in general, like your 4-down play looks like, or your 2-down play looks like Garp, and then your 4-down play is generally 5-6 with Garp leader, whereas you could go 5 with leader and then play the Perona, that kind of thing. So it's a versatile card. It's recursable off the Rebecca, of course. It's summonable off the Gecko, of course. And it's really good against Nami if you can abuse it like that. And it's a 2K. So, and then the Rebecca. So he's talking about the Rebecca. This is a pretty big change from a lot of lists. I mean, you definitely see people on Perona, but you never see people on Rebecca. The Rebecca, he said, obviously you can summon off Gecko and stuff. As just, and he was saying a theory about how into the black and black-yellow matchups, it's less about swinging wide, but more about swinging tall, and Rebecca addresses that issue. Further, you can, if you go first against black-yellow, or first in general against Lucci or something, if you don't have the 5-drop Luffy, you can play the Sabo, and then on 7 Dawn you swing with the Sabo, it dies, and then on 4 Dawn you play the Rebecca, revive the Sabo, play the Sabo, and that's like really broken against Lucci, of course. That will stall you a turn so that you can go to 10 Dawn next turn, play your Gecko, and it just helps your going first curve in general. That's what seems to be it, and then obviously the rush capabilities with the Ace with a blocker to back it up is pretty good. So let's get into the games. We're going to go into game 1 here. Looks like Neiss won the die roll. He's going to choose to go second. Black Yellow is going to pass. And then Boa will play the Sengoku Searcher and find a 4-drop Mihawk 2K counter. And then pass turn. Keden's going to go 7 at life. Obviously with Boa, you want to try and counter out of this first swing when possible, just to like proc your leader effect for the rest of the game. So we should see a 2 and a 1 here, especially since we know they have the Mihawk, and they're going to get rid of a Pudding, indicating that they have another one in hand, or that was their only 1K counter, or something like that. Even then, I think you give up 2 2Ks in this spot. They're going to play the Machina, the one of Machina, in their list. Take a life, look at the top, and then stack it how they want. Neiss is going to go 5 at life, interestingly enough. And Keden's sitting at 6 cards, so I'm assuming the thought process here, I think they have a pudding in their hand, is what this tells me. And they take it, go to 7 cards, so they're going to play right into the pudding. That's not good. So they're going to play pudding and then go -2 with that pudding. It's pretty tough, but the situation there is obviously if they counter out of the card, they're not only going against their deck strategy, but also playing into like a Jinbei into a Gecko or something to add back to Mihawk, because that would be terrible. And then you have one less card in hand to counter that for the next turn swings. So it is just a a rock and a hard place type situation for Keden in this spot. But he does end up getting puddinged, and it was like we saw them discard a pudding, so we know it's like decently fair for them to just not have another one. If we're talking about just like probability wise. So, and it's tough. He's going to draw 5 cards, though. And pass turn, go to 5 Dawn. Keden's going to go 5 at life here. And they're going to take it, go to 5 cards in hand, and then play a Sabo, draw 2, trash 2. Pretty standard fare. Going to get rid of a Luffy and an Ace, pass turn. So Bo is now in the sweet spot where she wants to be. 6 cards in hand, like 1 card removes a body, then you can draw. That's generally what Bo is looking to do. It looks like they have a Jozu in hand. The Jozu won't be able to proc the leader ability, but I mean, obviously you just play it to replay this pudding. Bounce the pudding and bounce the... That is nasty. Yeah, you gotta read that. That's bonkers. Bounce the pudding against Black Yellow Luffy to bounce a Sabo to hand. That's hilariously good. And then they're just gonna pass without a swing. That's fair enough. To not play into their deck strategy, of course. And then next turn we can pudding them again if we want to. They're at 7 cards right now, so they're going to have to try and empty their hand to play around this pudding. Oh gosh. And they're going to flampe, take a life, draw a card. Okay, so they can get down, they can awaken here, so that's good for them. They're going to double flampe, draw 4 cards in the process. Obviously, 2 Dawn's going to be allotted to the leader. 2 Dawn's going to be allotted to a baby, at least. So they're going to tap 1 for Garp. They're going to end up taking an Ace here. 2 Dawn under leader, leader ability. Discard the Ice Age. Put 2 cards in life, put the Luffy and the Ace. And then obviously going to play the baby Ace here. The Ace gets rushed, leader gets +2, so leader is 9 this turn, 7 on the next turn. They're going to go 7 at life with the Ace. So Neiss deciding whether to counter out of this 7 swing. Looks like they just probably should. Just a matter of with what. They're going to give up a Kaya and a Doflamingo. Then Keden's going to go 9 at life. They'll take it. No trigger. Hit a Gecko. Pass turn. They're going to go 9 into 7 with the Jozu. Holding up 6 Dawn. Looks like they're going to play a Boa or something this turn to stun the Ace. Keden's deciding whether to counter out of this with 2 cards or give him the Luffy. They're going to counter out the 3 cards actually, and a Luffy, a Sabo, and a Garp. Pretty wild. So showing no 2Ks in hand, they're all on the field. Then they're going to play a Boa, stun the Ace, and bottom deck the Garp. And then draw a card for leader ability. Pass turn. Keden still can't Gecko, unfortunately, so that's not in the picture right now. They're only on 9 Dawn. Even if they Gecko someone back that Luffy, they're going to be at 0 life because they can't use their leader ability and only a 7k leader. And they're just going to scoop it up. So obviously but the powerful combo of bouncing the pudding back with the Jozu, they didn't even have to use the pudding again, but the fact that they could have was nasty. Just bouncing the Sabo was pretty much enough, and then stunning the Ace. Yeah, you get to see why Boa is such a strong matchup into Luffy. It's the removal. The whole reason why Black Yellow is good against Lucci is just because they have insane, like, their whole deck synergizes with their cards being KO'd. Not only can Saba protect from them being KO'd, but they can bring their cards back. So, like, obviously bottom decking them is just a whole different story, and also bouncing them is a whole different story. You know, even bouncing, like, in my experience with the Nami deck, like ripping the Snake Dance event to bounce the 5-drop Luffy is like a game winner event. Like, that's a game winning trigger. So just imagine being able to do that every single turn, while also staying high on cards. Pretty good. So we'll go into the next game here. Alright, so both players mulliganed, so I fast forwarded a little bit. Took a little while. Keden's obviously going to choose second now that they lost game 1. They can pick their own curve. They're going to pass on 2, and then Bo's actually going to swing on a 3 Dawn turn for 8. They obviously take that, and then they're going to meet that with a 9 swing. No trigger. So I'm assuming Boa is just like doesn't care if they have cards in hand, obviously, because of pudding, the pudding diff. So if they're putting him here, you know, do you swing 6 first? Does it even matter? They're actually going to swing 7 and play the Dofi blocker. They're going to take that, so it looks like there's going to be a pudding next turn on the 7 Dawn turn. And then they're going to play the Dofi blocker, stack their top 5. I'm sorry about how... I don't know why this is so bad in terms... Like, my internet is not that bad to where this needs to be buffering all the time. They're going to go... Keden's going to go 6 at life on their 6 Dawn turn. And then since they're at 2 or less life, they're going to play the Ace, swing 7, and they're going to take the block with the Doflamingo there. So now, okay, Keden has drawn his 5 new cards, and he's gonna go. Neiss is gonna go 8 into the Ace, demanding a 2K here. They did have it, so now they only go down to 5 cards for the next turn instead of 6. Pretty good play. Not swinging into life there probably. But now they hit the 8 Dawn turn. They're going to swing 7 into life. Probably just need to count out of this one, and they do. They'll give up a Gecko and a Law. Another Ace for 7, and then an 8 swing after this, I assume. I'll take that, and then swing another 7. Take that. Another pudding in hand. They're going to Garp this time. Gravity Blade would like obviously be so crazy right now. They're going to hit 9 Dawn. They might just not have the Gravity Blade, so we'll see. Can't really tell. They are setting aside 7 Dawn though, so they're going to swing 7 into an Ace. Okay, they're going to give up a card for that. Okay, 5 at life. They'll take that, and then they're just going to Boa, stun one of the Aces, bottom deck the Garp, and they have 6 cards in hand, so they can't draw a card. So things obviously suddenly got a lot better for the Black Yellow Luffy player. Still not out of the woods, of course, but no Gravity Blade on that turn really helps out. Obviously, they still can't play the Gecko because they are not awakened yet. So that is a factor. They're going to tap 5 for a Luffy, pop the pudding, draw a card. And then go 8 into life. Yeah, if their turn is just 8, that's not very good. But it's actually, oh no, they can't even swing with the Ace, so it has to be 8, 9. Pass, okay. This might just be the end of it. If Neiss can swing correct numbers, and then he will 2-0 into the finals. On the backs of the pudding character. He's gonna go 11 at life, so he's gonna go 11, 12. Takes it, 12, and that's game. Wow, so a swift 2-0, just showing how much the Boa deck and I can't tell if that Gravity Blade was in hand or like, if he didn't Gravity Blade, chose actively not to Gravity Blade. It might have been a life card. But that's crazy. If so, I mean, I would have snapped that grab. I just really don't think he had. I think that was a life card. I hope. But, yeah, just a swift 2-0 showing how good the Boa matchup is into Black Yellow Luffy, even at the top player, especially if you're a really good player, like obviously Neiss is. But let's go over the list one more time. Very interesting list by Keden. Like he said, sort of conceding to Bonnie. But winning a lot of the rogue matchups. Unfortunately, Boa is not a matchup, obviously, that those matters even change for. I would say the Kuzan package is probably better for Boa than anything, or like better into Boa than anything. But even then, Boa is just a really good matchup. You just kind of have to hope that they get beat by the Lucchis in Swiss. And then Neiss's top 4, or at least top 2 Boa deck. Very strong. The Jozu showing how strong that card is in this matchup, being able to bounce the pudding and potentially play it later. Didn't end up happening, but would have been cool to play a second pudding and whatnot. But yeah, either way, GG's to all those guys. Make sure to subscribe to Plastic Beach X3 for more One Piece videos, and peace out.